Hello, Wolfpack. Bitcoin is in that rejection zone that we've been talking about quite a bit. And that zone is kind of stemming from these three major uptrending and downtrending support lines. Actually, four of them, right? These yellow lines, both uptrending and downtrending, these dotted or dashed lines, I should say. Two of which stemming from the November high, and then two of which stemming from around December and November 2020. All of which, besides one of them, seems to be converging on 42K. Right, you can see this region here, I'll just circle it for you guys, is packed with resistance, not only from these three lines, but also if we wanted to kind of think about where 42K is. In fact, let's draw a horizontal line at 42K and we can get an idea of what's in that region. Let's go 42.5K. Okay, this red line. Let's see what we got there. Well, first and foremost, we've got a touch. Second, we have a little bit of support in this region here. We have a touch here as well. And going back a little bit further, we can see we have a touch here as well. So it's actually a pretty major support that's kind of stuck around throughout the entirety of the bull market between 42.5K and around 43K. And so using these diagonal lines here, we can see that between 42K and 43K, there is a massive chunk of resistance on Bitcoin. And now that we're coming up to that chunk of resistance, we need to start thinking about whether we're actually going to be able to break through it, right? Unfortunately, Bitcoin is in a consolidation pattern. Look, previously I've said this is an ascending wedge. I've also said it's a symmetrical triangle. It's very hard to determine what this pattern actually is. But, I would say, now changing my opinion on it, it's probably more like an ascending triangle formation, which is a bullish formation. Doesn't need to end bullish, especially since we've entered it from a downside. But it is leaning towards being a bullish formation, which is actually good to see because at the end of the day, guys, I want Bitcoin to break to the upside. Just because I'm predicting it's going to go down doesn't mean I want it to go down. If it breaks to the upside, I've said it before, said it again, I make a bunch more money and I gain a bunch more followers. That's just the simple reality of the situation. But generally speaking, I would say that us being in like a debatable ascending triangle formation is not enough bullish evidence for me to think it's going to break to the upside. So I need more than that. And especially considering all of these resistance zones, these diagonal resistance zones, we need a little bit more than it being in a debatable ascending triangle formation to assume it's going to break to the upside. But, we have seen a bullish MACD cross here. RSI is kind of compressing in, let me just draw this out, a bit of a triangular formation, right? And this is going like that on the top and like this on the bottom. And we can actually probably extend it all the way back here. And if we wanted to extend the top line as well, we could probably just bring it all the way back to this high here. So roughly, right? You can see roughly it is in a symmetrical triangle formation there. And it's hard to say whether that's going to break up or down, but what we can say is that the RSI is going to make the first move. The RSI is going to break its triangle before Bitcoin breaks its triangle. And so wherever the RSI goes, and we know that because the RSI is reaching a compression point on the 2nd of April, right? Whereas the triangle is probably going to reach a compression point, about a month later than that, or even later. So the RSI will determine the direction of Bitcoin. That's something very important to note for those of you who are looking at the charts on a daily basis. Get up the RSI, draw that triangle in. If that breaks to the upside, it's going to break up. If it breaks to the downside, it's going to break down. It will determine the direction of Bitcoin in the short term. Now, as of right now, the volume isn't really telling us anything too important. We have pretty low volume on this current candle. Why is that? Well, people aren't willing to buy into 3 diagonal lines worth of resistance as well as a horizontal line, which I've since deleted, that I'll actually bring back. I may as well leave it on the chart. 42.5K. People aren't willing to buy into this. They want to see the price get over this region up to 43K before they start buying. And then at that point, they could start buying. But as of right now, there's simply too much resistance. And it's not only 43K and 42K. It's also looking above. Well, first and foremost, the triangle breakout zone is 44.5K, all right, which we've rejected from 4 separate times. And then even above that, on these rejections, we actually wicked up and we rejected off 45.5K or 46K, which held us for support during the entire December region and the entire September region, which means that that's a very strong resistance zone. And so this is why on Bitcoin, I keep saying it over and over again, I'm not going to be macro bullish on Bitcoin unless we manage to break 46K. And it's not only because of a daily chart that I think that. 46K is also where the 50-week SMA lies, and that's currently at 46.1K. If we close a weekly candle above that, I'll be bullish again. Now, looking at something like Ethereum is where it starts to get interesting, because on Bitcoin, it's like, well, we're just going into resistance. It's hard to tell what's going to happen exactly. Low volume kind of tends to suggests that we probably won't break to the upside. We'll probably get rejected, but it's very hard to say for sure, since we're like literally right on the edge of breaking out. But Ethereum's giving us a little bit of a more clear picture. Now, obviously, whatever Bitcoin does, Ethereum follows. But generally speaking, when you can't find an answer for Bitcoin, looking at Ethereum isn't the worst idea, because they are connected, quite visibly connected, right? And what we're seeing on Ethereum is that, well, and what you'll notice here is that we are in a symmetrical triangle formation. In fact, it's probably some sort of pennant formation, right? We have a sharp move downwards into that pennant, and then we're forming that immediately. And so this would be the flagpole right here, and then extending it all the way to the downside. That would be the flagpole. And if we extended that to the breakout point, say we break out to the downside after this rejection, we're actually targeting a very low price of 100 USD on Ethereum. Now, I don't think we're going to go to 100 USD at all. That's obviously not going to happen. But the point is, the target is down and the structure and formation is very bearish, right? We're not going to 100 USD though, just clarifying that. No one quote me on that. But that's just an idea of what the structure is showing us. It's a very bearish structure, right? And obviously, we're not going to go to 100 USD, but, we could very well test these May to July lows. And we could very well test 1,300 to 1,200, which where these lows are coming in on Ethereum here. I would not be surprised at all if that happens. In fact, that's kind of my prediction. But as of right now, and given the fact we're in this bearish structure, we have to kind of start thinking about, well, what do we have indicated? Because we're right on the edge of a breakout. So what's suggesting we break out? What's suggesting we don't break out here? Well, what we can see, generally speaking, is when we enter upwards trends within this triangle, we see descending volume. Okay, upwards trend there, descending volume. We entered an upwards trend over here, and we saw short-term descending volume as well. And as of right now, we've seen ascending volume up until this candle, where we've just started descending quite rapidly. The hourly candle closes in an hour, and we're not going to make up that volume right now. But what this is showing us is that every time we test the top of the triangle, we're going in at low volume. When you see low volume, it basically means there's low conviction in the move, okay? If you're moving up an upwards trend and volume is decreasing, it means that the higher you go, the less people are willing to buy, which means the less confidence there is in the market at that valuation. It means that essentially the valuation, the fair valuation according to the market and market sentiment is lower. And that's what we're seeing on Ethereum right now. And for that reason, I think a breakout would be slightly more unlikely. Now, even if we do break out, there is an argument to be made that you could just redraw the triangle, right? This is the problem with these kind of moves. You could just redraw the triangle to this pink dashed line, right? And then keep this bottom line the same, and you could have a pink dashed line triangle just like that, and that would remain completely valid. I'm not doing that at that point in time, but I'm keeping that pink dashed line there just for, extra reassurance on the move. Because at the end of the day, the only high you'd be neglecting is this eye here, and you'd still have two relevant highs and a third one if you touched. So, whether this yellow line or the pink line is the top of the triangle is up for debate. And that's the problem with Ethereum right now. It's like, even if we break out, are we actually breaking out, or are we just, moving to the actual triangle? And was this move here a bit of a fake out? But regardless, we have low volume there on Ethereum as well, which isn't really a good sign and not what you really want to see. But moving back to Bitcoin, this is the pattern we're looking at, and looking at the RSI, as I said, is probably a more favorable thing to do at this point in time, and that would suggest that, as I said, a breakout is coming within the next 2 weeks, basically. So this consolidation can only go on for so much longer, and so hang tight, guys, and be cautious. Remember, you're not meant to be jumping in. I mean, this is just TA, I'm literally doing a learn to trade course with Mega Well Crypto right now. Obviously it depends on your interpretation of what pattern we're in, but you're not meant to be jumping into a trade in the middle of a pattern, when you have no clarification of when it's going to break up or down. Jump in just before a breakout or after a breakout, right? And as of right now, there's no clear breakout in sight. And the critical regions are, for sure, 42.5K and 38K to the downside. Those are the critical regions for Bitcoin. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.